In a recent trip back to Texas, we made a couple of memorable stops. One of them was in the town of Kerrville, and the other was in San Antonio. We spent the first night at the local Cracker Barrel, and during the time we were there, Kelly discovered there was a city park that had RV camping as well as hiking and biking trails. So the next day we found our way over there, and we ended up staying for a number of days before we headed on over to San Antonio. Many of the hiking biking trails are relatively short, but there is one that goes from Kerrville Shriner Park all the way up into Kerrville. Total distance riding was 11.6 miles by my cycle computer. Things were beginning to bloom, so we saw a variety of different birds, and of course with blooming you also get to see the bees. Even the cactus was blooming. While in Kerrville, we had an opportunity to make our way over to the Hill Country Arts Foundation, where we got to see Stonehenge 2. And you know that fire ants are bad when they post information on the bulletin board explaining the difference between red ants and fire ants. Let me tell you, those fire ants are bad dudes and dudettes. So from Kerrville, we made our way south, which was about a little over an hour, to the Mission San Jose Visitor Center. We started our journey at the Visitor Center, where we were able to get information on the trail so that we might not get too lost. And that was a good move. It was only one time the two of us got separated. And for the sake of our marriage, I'm not going to go into that. We chose a parking spot that was going to be in the shade for most of the time we would be gone. We got lucky and found this one over here at about 100 yards away from the visitor center. Nice and convenient for our departure as well as for our return. Right turn. To get onto the trail, you have to go through some of the streets that surround the Mission and Visitor Center. The route is posted as bike route, so it's not too unnerving if you're not used to that. So people will be on the lookout for cyclists. And the distance was not too long in terms of Visitor Center to the trailhead. Might have been a mile and a half. I didn't record it, sorry. One of the important things to remember is to carry plenty of food and water. The trail doesn't go through a metropolitan area until you get closer to the Alamo. So having food and water on board is a big plus. You know, the day that we rode this thing, the temperatures were in the 90s, and the high during our ride was 102 degrees. Yep. You know what they say about the weather in Texas. If you don't like it, wait a minute, it'll change. Once you make it down to the river, you see these interpretive signs along the way. Pretty helpful if you don't have a GPS or some other form of navigational aid. Here's an example of why you need a GPS if you're going to do this on a bicycle, or a really good map. You can see the trail actually goes up above the river to the road system, crosses a bridge, and then on the other side of the river, it goes back down. So the trail is reasonably well marked, but not marked well enough that you can do it without some additional aids like a map or a GPS. And shortly after getting back to the river, we have another shining example of why a good map and GPS is critical. Even with these interpretive signs here, it's not clear which way we're supposed to go on the trail. So we've got our maps out and we're checking them.
Along the river and then go this direction. St. Mary's.
Finally, we begin to ascend up from the river and enter into a residential area, which leads us on into the city of San Antonio.
My turn. Are you going to check your map? It says left, doesn't it? Bike route to the left.
And this is where that fatal incident occurred that I said I wasn't going to talk about.
Yeah, you can see it over there on the other side of the street where that van, or whatever that is, that gray thing just turned from. So you need to make a left turn. Wrong left. Go down to the intersection and meet me over here.
Suffice to say, that didn't happen. It wasn't pretty after that, not at all. To get downtown, it's still not necessarily clear where you are supposed to go to visit the Alamo, but we finally got there. Seemed like it took forever, but we made it. Even though we had food and drink on board during the entirety of our ride, we were both pretty zapped when we got back to the van. And we still had a drive to do because we were going to spend the night on the west side of Houston. 177 miles from where we were to where we wanted to spend the night. Hey, that's it for today. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. And if you didn't, well, sorry. We'll try to do better next time. Take care.